Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Screen Society podcast, a podcast that covers all things TV, movies, and everything in between. I'm your host, Logan, and today we have a special guest checking in for his shift at Sacred Heart, and that is Jordan Wiegand. Hey, Jordan, how's it going over there?
Good. Well, hopefully I'm not checking in for a shift because I don't know anything about
You are,
medicine, so
yeah.
that'll be a problem. But you warned me about that intro, and it still shocked me how loud that is. So I was like, I'm prepared for it, and then it was like,
Yeah. It's like I found it on Canva because I was like, it's so hard to find,
yeah,
especially without paying a lot of money,
yeah.
finding copyright free music. So, but it's always like real loud, but I kind of like the loudness. It's kind of epic, but there was the first time I did it and it scared the hell out of me because I had my headphones on. So, but yeah, today we're jumping in and talking Scrubs. Jordan, I've been calling it season one of the ABC reboot because it only
Well, it's not a
existed on
reboot; it's revival. But yeah, go ahead.
Revival, yeah, but it's been, it's that's what I've been calling it because season 10, like, whenever I say season 10 or type in season 10, it doesn't identify it. It's like, "Wait, what are you talking about? There was no season 10." So it throws me back to, like, but then when I type in season 1, episode 3, it brings me back to the original Scrubs of
hmm
season 1. So I don't know what to call this, the revival, I guess, episode 3, season 1. But Jordan, it's called My Rom-Com, and before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, your favorite rom no, I'm kidding. I wanted to just ask you what your history is with Scrub I mean, I know it, but for the listeners,
hmm
just your experience with Scrubs, what you think of it, what you thought of the original, and then I'll ask you some other questions as well.
So most of my experience with Scrubs, the OG, right, was during like I watched a lot of NBC, right? So it would be probably on before something else I was watching. And I would only see like clips here and there of it. Um and it was probably a little too oddball for like my parents' taste maybe. So they never really watched it, which means I never really watched it. Back then, what 2000, right? 2001 when it first came on, were I did have a TV in my room, but I'm not sure if I think I had cable at that point, but like most of the time would be sitting around the TV together as a family watching something in the evening like that. So I never really got into it until I one thing I did know was the theme song, which I always loved even without seeing the show. Just seeing like Scrubs come on maybe after something else I'd watched and catching the theme song and being like, that's really catchy. And then Uh, I don't know if I watched it because of Mandy Moore or if it was again something that I was waiting for another show to come on or something, but I remember seeing one of the Mandy Moore episodes where she keeps saying that's so funny instead of laughing, and I didn't remember that when I was binging this, and when it came on, I was like, I've seen this, like I must have watched this episode, and I had a huge crush on Mandy Moore as a teenager, and I don't know if maybe I was like seeking it out because she was in it or whatever, but I'd seen at least that episode, and then uh I just kind of my friend Casey, who I did the we have a movie podcast, TV show podcast where we watch stuff for the first time, and we just did the revival first two episodes, and he was big into Scrubs. He would always bring it up on podcasts when we were talking, and I knew you liked it, and my other roommate Andrew was a Scrubs fan. So I had Scrubs fans in my life that like would keep recommending it, and I was like, maybe one day I'll do that. I know Bill Lawrence created one of my favorite shows of Spin City, which I watched because Michael J. Fox was in it, and I was a big Back to the Future fan, so I would follow whatever Michael J. Fox was doing. Um, and of course, he wrote an episode of Friends as well, which we've talked about. But so I knew like of Bill Lawrence, and I even knew of shows like Cougar Town when that was going on and everything with that. So it was kind of like always on the radar, I would say, and I jumped into it about almost a year ago, last April. And it took me a bit for season one because I binged like almost all of season one in a quick span. And then, you know, other shows came back on that I watched with my wife, and now that we have a kid, it's harder for us to watch stuff. So, we were watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and then Big Brother season was on where we're watching live feeds and we're watching 3 times a week Big Brother, and then I didn't get back while I'm watching it, of course. Then the news is coming out that it's coming back for a revival. So now I have a countdown that I'm like, I have to watch the rest of these 9 seasons before the next season comes out. So I on December 29th, I looked at how many more episodes I had, did a math of how many episodes I'd have to watch a day, and it came out to pretty much like 3 a day that I'd have to watch to be able to catch up for the new season. And there were some days I would be able to watch like 6, depending on what's going on. And then, 3 is an hour because they're 20 minutes, right? So you're going to 20, 40, 60. It's just a little over an hour that I'd have to dedicate a day to watching it. And with that timer, I was able to do it. And I got, you know, through the rest of season 1, and then just kind of flew through the rest. Watched season 9, even though people told me not to watch season 9, but I was like, I'm a completionist. I'm gonna finish this. And it helped knowing that it wasn't gonna be referenced at all. I was just kind of treating it as, like a bonus, different show, you know.
Yeah, it almost felt dream sequency, and that's what Bill Lawrence has said it multiple times, where it was almost a kind of a standalone dream sequence of sorts, but it was really about introducing those other characters because he thought that maybe they could
It was supposed to
carry
be
the
like
show
a,
without
a, a
them.
spin-off, and he
Yeah,
wanted to call it, like Scrubs Med School, but
right.
ABC wanted to, promote it as a new season of Scrubs, and it, all went from
Yes.
there. And that's stuff I all knew. I remember sitting in high school learning. I remember sitting in high school and people talking about Scrubs. I don't know. But I was subbed to TV Guide and everything back in those days. So I knew that
Yeah.
like Scrubs ended. And then they did I was a huge TV nerd, Logan. I used to follow TV ratings. So I would know what shows are going to be canceled, what shows are going to be picked up. And I would watch a lot of pilots at the beginning of the TV season to know, like, is this a show I'm going to continue watching and stuff. So, like, I had a lot of this knowledge, like, already in my head going into this, but, about season 9 and all that kind of stuff. But I decided to watch it anyway. And I think because I went into it with all of that, I liked it more than most people, I'll
Yeah.
say. But I am very glad that we have ignored it and that they've reconstructed this amazing set based off of the knockdown hospital they used to film in.
Yeah, I said this on the last episode. I mean, this was a show. This was my comfort show in high school and in college, between that and Friends for the most part. And then How I Met Your Mother came more along in the college years. But this, and then I'd sprinkle in Home Improvement. I mean, I've seen Scrubs and Home Improvement probably more times than I could count. I got my mom into the show. I've gotten many friends into the show, and it's pretty cool to see because I mean, I didn't have the largest friend group. I went to a really small high school. You just didn't, and this show really, and a lot of shows that I watched were much more of like, I wouldn't say like adult shows, but they were definitely for 20-year-olds and above. And I considered myself old soul, so these kind of shows resonated more with me than I think some of my friends. So I
Oh
never
yeah,
really
yeah,
had friends that watched this or Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Like nobody cared about that stuff. They cared about
right. Like
parties and
I grew up, in we grew up around the same time, but in middle school, I was watching Friends,
yeah.
right? Like I would watch it every Thursday night, and I would talk about it with select people at school.
Yep.
I remember the day after the like, or it was really recent after the finale of Friends. They had we were learning about dissecting frogs, and there was a part that is like a phalange,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yep, making the Friends joke.
we referenced the
Yeah.
Friends joke from, that, and then Yeah, I was watching Lost back in my
That's a
middle
deep
school
show for a middle schooler.
days.
Yeah.
It is, and
Yeah.
I loved it. It really opened up my world, but, I remember watching How I Met Your Mother, the premiere, the night it
Yep.
premiered,
Me too.
by myself. Nobody else in my family was watching it. I actually got all of them to watch the show. And then, so what was that, '05? So I was, like, 14 watching that, and then in high school, I became obsessed with The Office, obsessed with Arrested Development. These are all
Yep.
really deeper shows that, like, um,
People our age were
a
not
lot of
watching
people in
them.
our age were still kind of
Yeah.
watching, like, the Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or uh,
Sports, really.
sports,
Yeah,
like,
that's really
or
it.
not watching TV. And like I said, I'm sitting there with my TV guide circling shows like, I'm gonna watch that when that one
Yep.
premieres.
Yes. Yeah, you and I feel, would have been best friends in high school, middle school as we are now, but, like,
Yeah.
it just like, we really would have hit it off, and you and I have talked about this. We have so much in common with how we were raised, how we grew up, and kind of how we've kinda seen the world. We're both writers, we both enjoy
Mhm.
storytelling, we love the movie theaters, and, I was so happy when you're like, "I'm gonna watch Scrubs," because like, I can usually pinpoint. I'm like, you and I have pretty similar taste in the things that we like, the humor that we like. But I was so excited because I really didn't. I didn't have, and I still don't have. I wouldn't say I have a bunch of friends that like Scrubs. A lot of them
Right.
don't like Scrubs. And actually, growing up in high school and stuff, I actually found the people that I connected with most when I'd open myself up to were the girls in my grade because one, they were more mature, but that was the Grey's Anatomy wave. So like Scrubs
Mm.
and Grey's Anatomy were like seen as competitors because, and it's funny that they were because one's a drama that was an hour long, the other was a 22
Right.
minute sitcom, and you're like, well, this like they don't have similar, but like Scrubs was known for being very accurate with medical information, where Grey's tackled more of the unicorn type cases, and
Mhm.
so it was. I remember it being competitive, so I actually didn't like Grey's Anatomy because people would be like, "Well, Scrubs is just silly and goofy." But I was like, "You have to watch Scrubs to really understand that it's not just this silly, goofy TV show about two best friends." I think that's
Yeah.
what people saw it as when it
I
originally
think
came out.
Yeah, I think that's, like, kind of the stuff I knew is, like, people would
Yeah,
say, like, JD and Turk, really good bromance and stuff, and then, when I sat down to watch it, the pilot's good, the first couple episodes are good, but where it really hit me was episode 4
yeah,
when they lose some patience, and I'm
yeah,
sitting there crying at this thing that I thought was gonna be a goofy TV show, and I think, that's what really sold me on it, from there onward, knowing that it can go from those uh, laugh out loud bits to an emotional storyline.
yeah. So, I'm not to put you on the spot, but first of all, I wanted to get just raw reaction of where was it like watching when they do lose Ben for the first time and Dr. Cox is standing there and he turns to JD and he goes, "Where do you think we are?" What were your reactions to that? Were you like, "Oh, I knew that was coming," or had you been like clued in that that happened?
No, I hadn't been. I knew there were some big episodes that were coming up because, one, if you look at like IMDb ratings and stuff, but also like without that, you're looking at when I told some people that like episode 4 of the first season
Yeah.
was big. Some people were like my friend Casey was like, "Oh, there's more. Like there's more like that."
Laverne.
Like
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Yeah. So
yeah.
like I was like, "Oh, okay. So maybe like so I actually always thought Kelso was gonna bite it because I'm like,
Oh,
old
yeah,
guy. I kind
that's
of thought they would go with that route.
yeah.
So no, the Laverne one was shocking. Uh, with the Ben one, I had to rewind it because I was also multitasking during that time, and I was like, "Did I miss the reveal or is this the reveal?" So I like rewound it to
Yeah,
make sure I was
right.
not like lost. Um, but no, so that one was and then if you rewatch it, there's a lot of signs leading up to it that
Yeah.
what's going on. It's a little bit more obvious on rewatch that you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
of
definitely,
course,"
yeah.
right? But
You see things, yeah.
on the first watch, you're just thinking like, "Oh, Brendan Fraser is being funny."
Yes,
You
which
know?
Yeah, which was it's so funny to me too because like if I know people are now going back and rediscovering who Brendan Fraser was. Like people younger than us, Jordan, have no
Oh, yeah.
idea who
Yeah,
Brendan
they're falling
Fraser
in love
is.
with them now,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, like
Just in
I
time
just
for the new Mummy movie.
right, yeah. I've watched him in Rental Family. I need to watch The Whale because I've heard it's really good. Because
Mhm.
he's had a revitalization of his, but he was so good and he kind of been blackballed by
I think
Hollywood. Like he just didn't really show up in
I think
anything.
he left for a bit
He did,
for
yeah,
raising his kids and stuff
yes.
too,
Yes.
so
And
yeah.
then people were reluctant to hire him because he had chosen to leave and they were afraid he was gonna leave again. But, I mean, he is gold. But yeah, so last one before we get into, like, kind of current day Scrubs. Who are your favorite characters? Like, who were you excited to see when you were like, "I hope they come back. I hope this character comes back. I hope they don't come back."
This is so I mean, obviously, I love JD, I love Turk, right?
Yeah, right.
Um, I I know some people say, like, JD is
Narcissist.
annoying or a jerk or a narcissist, like they said this week. I really like JD, but
I do too.
what I'll also say is my favorite, I think, is somebody that shocked me is probably Bob Kelso because I started off hating him
Yes.
because I'm
Yep.
like, "Oh, he's such a pain in the ass," like, and he doesn't know anybody's name,
Right.
Turkleton and all that kind of stuff. And then, as the seasons went on, where some people probably think it got a little bit more flanderized
Yeah.
and silly, but I really like Kelso near the end, especially when he is retired and he's getting his free muffins every day, like,
In
he's just
his
hanging
little
around the
Hawaiian
hospital.
shirts.
Yeah.
Yes.
I ended up really liking Bob Kelso and, and Ted and, some of those more, um,
Janitor.
yeah, like ancillary characters that are
Yeah.
not not the main core that we're usually spending time with every day.
Yeah. Hooch is
Hooch is
crazy.
crazy,
Yeah.
yeah. He
The
appears
Todd.
this week too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are so many great moments. But yeah, talking about now revival Scrubs. Before I get your impressions of the first two episodes, this was actually just released, I think, in the last week or so. ABC released a press release that said that Scrubs returned to the network in fine form, earning a total
Yeah.
cross-platform audience of 11.36 million based on viewing and linear encores throughout 5 days on ABC, Hulu on Disney Plus, and digital platforms. And it was what they say, Scrubs delivered the best ABC comedy episode and top ABC series, a debut overall on streaming in over a year based on views over 5 days on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus since the series premiere of Shifting Gears, which makes sense because Tim Allen, who was in probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite shows of all time in Home Improvement, anytime he shows up in anything, people watch it. So, but for the fact that this came back, Jordan, to a roaring success, I mean, the audience was thrilled. I think many people came into this, as most do, with all these revivals and reboots that are happening. They're afraid of what's going to happen with the core series and the characters that they've grown to love, especially this cast that they grew to love over 8 years now, going on 9 or 10, depending. But yeah, what are your thoughts? I mean, what were you scared about this going into the show in the first two episodes, and then what were your reactions after you had seen them?
Um, I wasn't super scared because I trust in Bill Lawrence. I know he's not running the show, but I mean he is involved. He can't physically run it because of his WB deal.
Yeah,
Um, and he's busy with like Rooster, and I'm sure he has some sort of input on Ted Lasso. Uh, so he's a little busy right
yeah,
now. All his shows. He's also doing like Bad Monkey on Apple. I
yeah,
think he's got a few
which
shows
is crushing
in
it.
the
Yep.
iron. And Shrinking, right? He's like part of that. So I I think I wasn't too concerned because of one, a lot of these revivals can't even get like all of the core cast together.
Right.
Um So the fact that they had for sure Donald Faison, Zach Braff, and Sarah Chalk as like everyday players, back as series regulars was a pretty big deal when you're like
Mhm.
following the news of it. And then when you're getting even people like the Todd and Hooch and obviously Perry and Carla are going to play parts in this. We have confirmation of the janitor appearing in an episode and Jordan appearing in an
Yep.
episode. So like the pieces are there, but like I think Scrubs is kind of set up as much as people are scared of like season 9 situation. I think Scrubs is set up for like I mean, I worked at a grocery store. Logan, it's different than this for sure, but like there was high turnover, right? And I would
Yeah.
assume hospitals have turnover. That like
Yes.
people are asking like, "Where's Doug? Where's all of these people from the original show?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, they might have moved to different hospitals. They had other stuff come up in their life, or they changed professions. Like the fact that this many people are back, I think is a pretty big deal." Um, and then knowing that they had a writer from the original run on it as well as as the showrunner was pretty big, and um, so I wasn't too concerned for it. And when I watched the first 2 episodes, for me, as somebody that has, I guess I just want to say this, right? As somebody that just binged it and finished it 2 weeks before these premiered, I feel like I would know if something was off
Yeah.
because I
Yep.
just watched it for the first time, right? Like, and I do think some people that I've been on like Reddit or on Twitter, and most of it's been praise, but there are some that are like, this feels different. This feels, I saw some people saying the emotional beats feel more like forced. And I'm like, I commented and I said, as somebody that just finished his first watch, like I do not notice a difference,
Mm-mm.
right? Like in this pilot episode, I teared up just
Yeah.
like I would have in the original run. And I feel like, you know, I think that's where sometimes we have nostalgia glasses on for stuff that we grew up with. So for some of these people, they've probably rewatched it a million times or watched it when it first aired, and for them, those things feel more earned, maybe
Mhm.
because it was at the time of their life where you know it's kind of like when I sit down and watch a new Star Wars movie every time, and I have to kind of readjust
Yep.
after the movie and rewatch it because it's like, oh, for so long these 6 movies were Star Wars. Now here's another one. Like, how does this change those 6? How does it change what's going forward? And I'm sure that's happening with Scrubs now too, as we've seen some people very upset that like JD and Elliot are no longer together. I saw some liken that to How I Met Your Mother, and I just gotta say, like, I really disagree with that in the sense of they were comparing it to Robin and Barney, I think, and I was like, how they break them up in the finale right after their wedding, essentially. I'm like, but in this, like, there was 15 years where they could have been together for like 12 years. They could have been together for 15 and just broke up. Like, we don't really know what's happened so far, but they at least made it work. And there's been 15 like real years right now, 17, I think, real years right now where they gave it a shot or like real time has passed. With the Barney and Robin situation, spoilers, I guess, for How I Met Your Mother, is they spend that whole final season at the wedding, right? And each episode is taking place for like 30 to an hour in that space. And you're like, oh, this is building up to something big with their wedding. And then in the finale, it's literally like 5-10 minutes into that finale that they break up. And you're like, why do we just spend a whole season at their wedding if it's not important?
Right.
Uh, it's important because I guess how Ted meets the mother, but it's not important enough for us to sit there and watch, you know, it go on for that long. It's different. Like there's 17 years between the breakup and the get together, and I understand people really like the finale of season 8. I think it is a great finale, but JD even says in there, like, "Who's to say that my
Mhm.
fantasies won't be real this time?" So it's
Yeah.
not guaranteed. Those are all just his thoughts, going into it, and they gave it a shot. And then sometimes they were never really great together in the sense of they always were kind of like how we see here in this episode.
Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying, like, their relationship was toxic, but, like, it wasn't good. Like, their relationships were never good. It always ended up
Hmm.
in, like, JD being bored and not in love with Elliot. Like, that one was always, to me, the real tell. So I think too, in the time period I was growing up, like, the time in my life where this existed was in high school when, yeah, you are living in the fantasy world. You're living in this idea of what life could be, what you want it to be, who you want to end up with. And I will say, even as you get older, even when you go from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s, life looks different because you get new friends, you lose friends, you fall out of touch with people, you gain friends for a lifetime when you're in your 20s, but you also change and you shift. And Cox changes a bunch, and none of that really, I mean, has really gone to the wayside. But you do see JD and Turk have kind of grown apart in those first two episodes, where JD and, I mean, Turk's got four kids, so like it's so hard for him to keep track of, and so much of this is written into how their lives are, really. I mean, Sarah Chalk and Zach Braff have talked about how their characters do seem very similar to the way they are in real life. And Turk and Donald Faison are, like, Donald said that, it does feel like that because he's got, I think, six kids or seven kids in real life. And he said that, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
he does. He has a lot.
it's tough. Like, it's tough because I watched the Jimmy Kimmel thing. He was,
Yeah, me
but
too.
we, it was so good. But I mean, these guys are real best friends. Like, this is what's so cool about the show. It feels so authentic. And Jordan, I think what really sets this show up for success is that they're not reliant upon, one character's story to really carry the show. It's always been those three. Like, it's always been the three
Yeah.
of them. And I think that's what makes it so cool. And then you wrap in Carla because she's with Turk. You wrap in Cox because he's with JD. And then Elliot, I mean, Elliot's just kind of a storm. Wherever she goes, things happen. And it's just kind of fitting. She brings people in with her. And so it's just, it works because, I mean, they're using the same ingredients that they had. And something that I felt, Jordan, the musical cues are the same.
Hmm.
The music is still the same. The Todd is similar, but because we're now progressing in society, he's not as, and when he is as brass as he normally is, they kind of cut. They're like,
Yeah.
no, they kind of cut him off. But we get a good Todd moment in this episode. Like, there are so many good things that this show can provide, and I think that they picked an excellent group of interns, because I was like, that's where I thought the show was like, you need good interns, and I think they've got some really good ones, as we'll talk about in this show. But anything else before we want to sort of dive into this week's episode?
I'll just say I looked up the ratings for episode 3,
Hmm.
and it held most of the people from the second episode last week. So now this is for the ABC.
Right.
Obviously it's on Hulu the next day, so people watch it from there. But it had 3.35 million viewers, which the second episode 3.52. The first one had 4 point something. So obviously people were checking it out, and some people dropped off. But it got second place in the night for the time slot. Survivor was 4.95 with a zero
Yeah.
point 0.9 rating share in the heavy 18 to 49 demographic. Scrubs had a 0.49. It beat Chicago Fire. It beat The Masked Singer. It did better than Abbott Elementary, which was a half hour later. And that's a
Yeah.
big show for
I was
them
gonna
that
say it
just
pushed
got
it.
renewed.
Yeah.
So I think it looks really good for a
Yes.
second season of this revival.
Yeah. And they've asked Bill Lauren, and obviously they've asked them this in
Yeah, and
advance,
he
and
said
they're
he's
kind of
like
just,
hopeful.
yeah, he said he's hopeful. And then they interviewed Zach, and Zach said the same thing, that he's hoping that the magic is still there. And he and Donald were both very appreciative and almost moved to tears, I think, when Jimmy was talking about it. They were both like, it's incredible that they've stuck around and they've gained people. This is bigger than it was when it was around. So it's amazing that it's been able to withstand a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think that they're correcting tone on some of the things that I've talked about this last episode, where like 2001 Scrubs existed as 2001 societal
Mhm.
commentary. Like it was, you did see a lot of sexual innuendo, speaking down or condescending towards women at times. Like it was very for its time, but it wasn't out of place in its time. Like I would say that Two and a Half Men might have been the biggest pusher of this kind of humor back in this time period. So, Scrubs wasn't ever seen like that, where it was real raunchy, but it did. It pushed some
Right, right.
boundaries that you would probably not write to in today's, and that's kind of what we get with each of these episodes. But I love it. I don't think it's changed any. But we're going to jump in so that way we can cover the episode. We'll kind of go scene by scene. But this the first the scene opens up and JD's teaching, again, a teaching hospital. I think it's so fitting that the three of them are kind of stepping into these teaching roles because, like their mentors before them, I'm interested to see how their leadership is. But Jordan, we get some really good jokes right off the bat when they're talking to Mr. Billings, the patient, as they're starting to teach and they're doing their rounds. JD says that no, it's actually chlamydia that Mr. Billings is dealing with, and he said, "Yeah, these days they're really turning it up at the old folks' home like it's burning, man." And he says, "Right, Mr. Billings?" Mr. Billings says, "Yep." And then Tosh is the good moment where she says, "Wait, is that why my grandma doesn't want me to visit? She's afraid of what I'll walk into." And he's like, "Yeah, Tosh, your Nana loves threesomes." And then we get a Todd, banging till the N5, which I thought was really good. But Jordan, we got some really good scenes, but so far, I think Tosh is one of my favorite interns. I think she has done a couple things throughout these last couple of episodes. So what are your thoughts? Just kind of where I feel like this is a good spot to talk about it. What are your thoughts on some of these interns that we've brought into Sacred Heart?
I I think it's funny because I'm trying to think of who my favorite one is, and it's hard
Yeah.
to pick, especially after this episode. We got a little bit more of a Mara this
Yes.
episode that we didn't
Yep.
have before, so like that endeared me to her.
Yep. Me
Um,
too.
while like I think last week when I was recording the last episode, I was saying that I was really curious about like the storyline that Blake is dealing with, right?
Yes.
As somebody who had to kind of deal with the fallout of his actions and how he was pushing away people. Now he's kind of embracing
Hmm.
the friendship. I think the British guy Asher is really funny, and
Hmm.
then I was really also curious with um,
Deshauna.
Dashauna's
Yeah.
storyline last in the pilot, I think it is, and then
Yep.
um, and that's what like last episodes. Amara didn't get as much, and then this time she got some, and everybody's really getting their chance to shine. Tosh, like you said, she had more to do. Like last week, where we were learning really what you kind of see her at the pilot as like doing stuff on her phone, and it's not as clear that she's an influencer. I don't think in the first episode they kind of mention it more in the second one.
Yep.
But like getting there was like a nice endearing moment at the end of that episode where she got them all sleep masks and she fits she fixes Asher's sleep mask on him while he's knocked out in their mandatory nap time. So I think this group has been really really good so far as new interns, and you know as we get more of each of them, they've kind of really endeared me more than let's say people always make the season 9 comparison, but I'll say the season 8 comparison where we really only got a focus on 2 or 3 of those interns
Right. Yep.
in season 8, which was, when Joe first appeared, and then we also got uh I forget what the one girl's name was, and then like you had Aziz Ansari and like all
Yes.
these other people.
Yep.
Like these interns, they're kind of doing the same thing that season 8 was doing, where they're like, "Hey, we're passing the torch."
Yep.
All of these people are now mentoring new interns, but it's landing better for me this time. One, because of real life time that's happened in between there.
Yes.
And also, I think the casting on these interns have been really, really great so far.
100%. I agree. I think what they struggled with, and I wouldn't say they struggled with an 8. 8 was good. 9 is where, because they were trying to do the med school type of thing, like, I saw what they're trying to do, and I'm not one that, like, hates it, but I'd avoid
Well,
watching it.
9 is so bizarre too
Right.
because you have a whole new hospital
That's
that's,
true.
it looks all
New
foreign
tech.
to you
Yeah.
because they knocked this one down. So they're filming on
Yes.
sets and they built it into the story that this one was knocked down.
Right.
And then they also have like actual teaching rooms. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like the
It's a
auditoriums.
med school.
It's
Yeah.
like full on college campus with a
Right.
quad and everything. It feels so foreign to what Scrubs usually is.
Yes. But still in that, I think what they had a hard time doing was finding like, Franco's good, but, like, it was tough to find, and it was always gonna be tough to find, like, an original core that felt somewhat similar, but they didn't really need the original core, and I think that's where they kinda misstepped with it. But I think in this one, they found some really good actors and actresses to play these interns, and like you said, Amara was kind of always in the shadow for me these first 2 episodes. It's kinda like, okay, like, I like her, but I don't really know what she's got going on yet
Her
because everybody
highlight
else.
her highlight was when she said that she has, like, secondhand embarrassment, and then she had to
Yeah.
take a minute,
Yes.
you know? That
Yes.
was where she stood out last time, and this time she
Right.
got a whole storyline.
Yes. But then, the next scene, Jordan, we really set up what's going to be a running theme through this first season. And people, I've seen this one too. I've seen this complaint of like, we've already been through this when JD and Elliot broke up way back in the original series of like them who's gonna be like who are Turk and Carla gonna be friends with. And they're like, oh, that's overplayed. I'm like, no, like this makes a lot of sense because this is different. Divorce is a lot different because people do tend to pick sides. And I love this setup, but we in the next scene, Jordan, we get Elliot continuing from last episode where she just feels like JD's picking on her. That
Mhm.
JD is doing this in spite of Elliot, and he's always going to pick Turk. But that's always been the case. He's always picked Turk, no matter who has been in the way. It's always been Turk. Like Turk is his best friend. It's his ride or die. And sometimes Carla can kind of get into that. She impedes on that in this episode, but in this complaint, Jordan, Elliot's basically like, you're making me do things that other people are not. And I feel like you're attacking me, almost that you don't even respect me, that you don't really care for me to be what I am. And like, you're using your power to kind of do what you want. And I kind of find it to a point where it's really just infuriating because I feel like it's because it's a personal attack, not because it's because you think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, he's, like, changed all of the orders
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
like, that she had written for, I guess, like,
Yes.
medication amounts and,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff that they're doing for
Yeah.
her patients.
It's one of the highlights of the episode because she goes, "Tell me what's going on with Miss Goldberg over there," and he goes, "Hmm, based off of what I know, what she's presenting." And meanwhile, this is like a 65-year-old woman. He goes,
Right.
"Pregnancy scare?" Which I thought was really, I was like, that was so Scrubs. I was like, man, we're right back into just the humor is just, it doesn't miss with this show, I feel. So, um, but I thought that was a really good moment. But then we get a really cool scene of Carla and Elliot inside, which another great joke when they're standing in the bathroom and
Mhm.
the sink, and Elliot's like, he even changed the towel dispenser so it doesn't identify my, because it's a reference back to her cold, sweaty, clammy white
Yeah,
hands or
yeah.
something that she had a problem with way back in the early parts of Scrubs. And Carla's like, and she makes the joke of like, those things usually don't see colored people's hands, and she's waving it and it works. And then you've got JD or you got Elliot doing like the dance thing that you see in the preview. But I love these moments between Carla and Elliot, Jordan, because this feels like the authentic Scrubs.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, like, do you think I guess, like, how valid do you think Elliot is here? Because, like, for me, I can see, like, the order stuff with the patients,
Yeah.
right? But also I would say that's probably just JD's ego,
Yeah,
honestly,
it is.
than anything as as a shot to her. But, like, when it comes to her thinking that the paper towel dispenser is, it's like,
Yeah.
you know how to use it, man. I mean, like,
It's
if
something, yeah.
he's had to go into bathrooms for her in the past to get her paper towels,
Yes.
is like, you gotta figure out what you're doing wrong there.
Yeah.
What she really has to do is just put her hand under there a little longer. But we also
Yeah.
had last week where this came up, right? You mentioned that, but I also felt that JD was valid there as much as I think it would help to have the newer mannequins and stuff.
Right.
It you know he has to keep with the budget. If the port is
Yes.
only giving him enough money for one, then
Yep.
obviously the robot brings in the money.
Revenue. Yeah.
And then maybe if you bring in the money, you can then upgrade the sim lab later, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not can't all be done at one time. So I think we're going to get more maybe like droplets of what led
Yes.
to their divorce. And I think that, she's obviously carrying this as but this is stuff that they used to do in the past too, right?
Yes.
Like,
Both of them. Yep.
they both have gotten each other's under each other's skin after a breakup, or you know,
Multiple
uh,
breakups.
or to
Yeah.
get ahead in
Yes.
their positions and stuff, like when they were co-chief residents and stuff like that.
Yep.
So this is just who they are at this point. So I do think Elliot is probably overreacting
Yeah.
here. Um, I can also see it from Carla and Turk's point of view, though, too, of, like you said, divorce is different.
Mhm.
Especially like before, they all had to live at this hospital, like they all had to work at this hospital
Right.
together. And they were all kind of on the same level. You now have JD, who is chief of medicine above Elliot. And that's kind of the new wrinkle, right? Is that he is
Yes.
her boss.
Jumped right
And,
over. Yeah.
you know, for Turk and Carla, JD is just kind of entering their lives again. Like they've obviously seen each other since, right? But JD lives an hour away. We'll see
Yeah.
if he moved. I don't know if he's moved since, but like
Right.
he might just be commuting right now. But he lives an hour away, and that's hard to get together. Uh, that many times. I have a friend who
Especially at that
lives
age.
15
Yeah.
minutes away from me. I
Right.
see him
Yeah.
like twice a year.
Yeah.
Okay, because of just life. And
Yeah.
like if you have kids, and like JD has multiple kids, he's name dropped that in the pilot, that
Mhm.
being a concierge doctor helped him spend more time with his kids, plural. We know of Sammy.
Yeah.
I think they've said in an interview that JD and Elliot have
Elliot
two
have
kids
yep.
together. So that'll be referenced at some point, I guess. But and then you also have Turk and Carla, who have 4 kids. It's like, when are you gonna have the time to hang out? And that is something that they're trying to find time to do. But if it's easier when your friends are couples, because you're hanging out with both of them at the same time. You're not making time for 2 meetups in
Right.
a week. And that's kind of the point here, is like, we need a couple friend to do couple things, because I can't spend like Monday with Elliot, Tuesday with JD,
Yeah.
and then we can't have like Wednesday with my sister, because we don't have the time for all of that.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And like you said, like this has always been kind of their thing. This has always been their thing. And as you get older, you do. Your friends grow apart. And it's not on purpose. You just do because life. Like once you start having kids, it's a totally different thing, right? Like Ashley and I don't have, to pick up a kid from daycare, bathe them, feed them, eventually when they get older, make sure they're doing the homework, that kind of stuff. But also you guys want to do stuff with your kids. Like you guys want to enjoy a day at the park with Landon. You guys want to take him to a ball game. And like, that's going to be hard to do. And then you balance school and sports and then after extracurricular, that kind of stuff the kids want to do, like doctor appointments, dentist appointments. I mean, it becomes more and more where like your kid becomes, I mean, you're not your best kid's best friend, but like your kid's friend, like it's your compadre. So it's a different way of life, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate that. I did feel that. But in reference to that, Jordan, the next scene is Turk and JD, which I thought was great. We're walking through the hallway, and basically JD is getting told that Turk's like, Carla said we need more couple friends because it can't always just be like you and JD or you and Elliot, and we're having a hard time picking between you two. And he's like, but Turk's like, how I see it is we annihilate anybody that tries to be a couple friend with us. And it's just you. It's always been you, JD. And then they run into Carla, and Carla's like, annihilate what? Who are you annihilating? And Turk's like, oh, like nothing. And then JD's basically, they're like, well, it's, we're annihilating anybody that gets in the path between us. And then he goes, "Yeah, it's always been JD," and then almost insinuating that it's always been JD above you, Carla. And she's basically like, "Oh, so that means you don't want to have sex anymore." And then Turk on a dime, like he spins around and he goes, he's just like, basically,
Like, good luck, JD. Is what
yeah,
he's,
you,
yeah,
good luck in your future endeavors. So
yeah, because he says, like, the I just rewatched this last night. He says to Carla, you are my world, but this is
yes,
a friendship of a lifetime, right? And it's
yeah,
like, which is nice. It's so endearing, but
it
it's also like
is,
for her, it's like, oh my god, like
yeah.
like you said, it's been a consistent theme throughout them that they will always put each other above their other relationships.
Yes. And those that are out there, this becomes it's not necessarily a thing that's like a big confrontational conflict kind of thing, but there are times you'll get to a serious point where in life you'll have a very special person in your life and then you'll also have your best friend. And there are times where that does get in the way. And it's not like this huge moment of like you have to pick between the two for the most part, but like there
Mm.
is conflict because you're like you're trying to you've known this person for so long and you've just met your wife, but like or your partner or your boyfriend, whatever it might be, and then they start to take over that special place. So
It's all about balance,
it is. Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
when Logan met his future wife, right?
That
He
yes.
completely ghosted me for a while. I was like, I'm never seeing Logan
Yeah,
again.
never.
I'm never talking to Logan again. But then eventually you found the balance
Yes. Yes. And let's be honest, like
after you
you're
locked her down.
yeah, I was gonna say when you lock her down, like but the romantic build up, you know what it is. Like it's like the
Yeah.
honeymooning and it's like, man, like you just want to be with them. It's a
I mean,
romantically
I
charged.
remember
Right.
going over my wife's house,
Yeah.
her parents' house, and being there. And I would get off work at like 10 o'clock, go
Yeah.
over there, and I would be there till like 2 a.m. and I'd be driving back home
Yeah.
to get home, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so exhausted. But it was like for anything at that time, you're like, I just
Yeah.
want to keep seeing her. Like
Yes.
I'm gonna go out of my way.
Yeah. You're in love. That's what
Yeah.
happens. Love takes over. Love trumps all. So, but then Jordan JD overhears the interns talking about the rate my doc, which is a real thing. We have
Mhm.
constant problems with this with our doctors at our hospital. But like,
Oh yeah, because you
this is
work
a
at Real
y-
Scrubs.
yeah, this is yes, basically. I walk around and high five people. No,
Yeah.
but seriously, like this is a big problem for them rating doctors, and it would be hard not to read reviews. But Jordan, JD gets a random comment from somebody, and he says he doesn't read them, but JD does get a random comment from some kind of pickle something lover or something like that. But it basically calls JD a narcissist and that he can't run a hospital. And
It
so
gave him
that
a
was
quarter
just
of a star too,
yeah,
which is
it was
impossible. I love that.
yes.
It's like, how's that possible?
Yes, because it came up because Tosh is brutal with with patients. I feel like she's trying to learn, but she tells Mr. Sharp, her patient, she tells the nurse to take him to his room or the nearest elevator shaft. And I was
Well,
like,
yeah, he was a
dang.
very like
Oh, abrasive and
racist or
rude.
sexist
Yes. Yes, like give me a
patient.
man doctor. Yes.
Yeah.
He wanted a man doctor. That's where we get the comment with Dr. or intern Green when Asher's like, my review is like 1 star and it says that they wish I came with subtitles.
Subtitles.
And then Blake goes, well, I don't know what you guys are complaining about. I got 3 stars. And JD goes, it's a 5 star rating system. And he goes, oh, that changes things. So I was like dying laughing when that was happening, but a really good moment there. But then Jordan, we get one of the biggest, I guess, care introductions to the biggest patient that we have in this episode, and that is our patient that is dealing with a heart problem and is basically going to have an external system that keeps her heart going, and she's going to have to wear a backpack. So Elliot has to go in and tell this patient, and she goes in with Sibby. Now, Jordan, Sibby Wilson, kind of Dr. Kelso-ish in this episode. I mean, very like she says some crazy off the wall stuff as she has throughout the
I
episode, but
kind of
it's always
saw
kind of
her.
harsh.
I kind of saw her as like Ted.
That's what I thought. But then
I
she
kind of saw
says
her
some
as
really
Ted.
dark
She
shit.
she does. I'm kind of curious uh on what her role is.
Yes.
Like she's HR, but I think she might be
She's a
more than that. She
wellness
might be an
manager.
admin. Yeah, I guess she's
Yes.
like the administrator too. Because like she's having a conversation with the patient that an HR wouldn't really have. So I feel like
Yes.
she has multiple roles, I think, here in the hospital. And My favorite part of this was the what if hell is real?
Yeah, the question. Because she's like, before you consider hospice care, I gotta ask
Yeah.
you something. What if hell's real? The patient's like, what? So no, that was a good one. And then she goes out and they I guess that's later on in the episode. We'll kind of keep it for that. But yeah, the what if hell is real. But this is where Jordan, I think you're right. She's more admin because then she goes out and says, it looks like the hospital's low on organ donors, and she goes, she looks like she's made of good stuff.
Yeah. Sibby this episode and last episode has really killed me.
Yeah.
I think some people are not fans of Vanessa Bayer, but I mean she kills me. And this
Yep.
like last week when JD calls Tosh Hotmouth
Yes.
and she's like, no nicknames. And then she
Yeah.
goes in and she's doing this fake British accent to Dr. Asher
Yeah.
and then calls him like something and JD's
Yeah.
like, what about no nicknames? Like
Yes.
in this
Yeah.
episode, she has this, and then she also has the whole stuff with like he's the little guy from Up,
Oh, from Up, yes. Do you have a handful of balloons?
and she takes it so offense when the nurses start thinking of him as somebody else. She's like, we all agreed on him being the guy from Up.
Yes, because he was Noah from the Notebook. Because he was
And he
later the
does
top
show
hat.
up looking like
He does. He has
Carl
the
from Up.
cane. Yeah, he has the
Got
little
the hat and the
cane, the
glasses.
hat. Yeah. My favorite part is when he's outside the hospital. They call him, and she's like, "I'm outside St. Vincent." They're like, "No, Sacred Heart." And then she goes, "Do you happen to have a handful of balloons nearby?" Jordan. So I think the best way to maybe describe her is she's like a good mix of like Ted and Kelso, like because they're kind of absent, obviously, from this. Like that's kind of what it feels like she is. Plus,
Not as inappropriate
like,
or as
no,
racist as Kelso.
yeah, right,
Obviously.
yeah,
Kelso is
yes,
like had like a Asian fetish and would
yes,
constantly be
about
slipping
his
around with
Hispanic
women.
pool boy and everything, and like
Yeah.
he says some off the wall stuff. But Jordan, throughout this episode, we get more of Amara. Like you said, she is slicing and dicing with a new robot because that was a funny line too. Carla was like, I can't imagine somebody so dependent on a robot in his life. And then Turk goes running through the hallway and he goes, my new robot's here. So then he goes and gets it. They are practicing on the robot. Amara, he's like, basically it's like Turk teaching his daughters how to drive a car is what kind of that parallel feels. And he's, coaching Amara how to use the surgical robot. And she gets really panicky because he starts to use driving analogies, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about because I've never learned to drive. And we get another great sequence of her going, I went to a really small school. It was just my brothers and I at my house. And Turk goes, you were homeschooled? And she goes, yes. And he goes, oh, well, that makes sense. And she goes, what, you think I'm weird because I'm homeschooled? And Deshauna goes, yes. And Turk goes, no. And she goes, no. So, and then we get the whole thing where she's like, yeah, it was a rough growing up. And at my school, I lost prom queen twice in a row to my mom because my brothers voted for him.
Oh,
and then Turk goes, well, I hope your mom's like really beautiful.
Yeah, that was funny. That felt classic Scrubs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Those kind of like we learn a little bit of a weird background with a character like this. And the other part of this too is right, like Deshauna and Amara are the ones that are obviously up for this because they're the two surgical interns, but like Amara had really studied everything about it. She just doesn't have like the actual experience of working with like pedals and stuff to really work it. While Deshauna was like, I just want to cut somebody up with this. And Turk's like, nope, Amara gets to do this first. But then we learn that while Deshauna probably would have been able to do the physical capability of it, like Amara is the one that's actually trained. And one thing I think I really liked about this storyline was the fact that Deshauna knew her friend needed a boost and like wanted Amara to still get it after she had messed up.
Yeah.
When you talk about like egos of we've seen a lot of these characters in the original show have like egos that they want to be the one to do it because that is what kind of like a doctor ego is, right? Like, I'm so good, I'm going to do this. And Turk even kind of says that with like, we're surgical doctors. We take what we want. And she's like, well, I want Amara to do this.
Yes. Yeah, and Tashana and Amara's relationship reminds me a lot of like how oftentimes Turk and JD would talk to each other early on in Scrubs because it was very much like the one would get down to the dumps, the other one would have to try to pick the other one up. And that's what it reminded me. I was like, that relationship actually reminds me of their two friendships. Like those two friendships, like Amara and JD feel very similar. Or sorry, Amara and Dashana remind me of the way that Turk and JD used to talk to each other when they would get down on one another. But Jordan, we got introduced to another character who I think they might be trying to implement him more. I just don't know how they're going to do it, but IT is always needed. And this is the first reference we get to an IT guy of Rafi. And there's a whole scene here, Jordan, where he shuts down the IT systems because or Elliot and Carla
Elliot.
are like, can you stall for that patient to get here, Arthur, to come see um his, I guess, whoever he's in love with, this patient that he's in love with is what we assume the whole episode. They're like, can you stall for him to get here to say his goodbyes or whatever he needs to say to this patient? So they go to the IT guy and he shuts down the system. Well, then Turk and JD go to confront him because he finds out that they've been tampering with it a little bit. So they're gonna go confront him as chief medical and chief surgical. And and Turk on the way there goes, hey, like that time I took you to my barber shop, I told you to be quiet and you didn't. You just kept talking. He goes, oh yeah, when I got the liberal use of homie. And he goes, yeah, I'm not allowed to go back to that barber shop now, which is a callback to kind of their relationship back when JD would try to interact with anybody Turk was friends with, and he'd embarrass Turk to no end, and they'd be like, all right, we can't do this anymore if you're going to be weird. But Jordan, we find out that Turk is like a dungeon master on a Sunday Dungeons and Dragons type of group, and he tells Carla that he goes golfing, but he's actually a dungeon master. But Rafi, our IT guy, Jordan, I really enjoyed him. Like I really thought that he was a nice add-in. I just don't know how they'll use him going forward, but he reminded me a little bit of Wade from Kim Possible too, like the way he's like sitting in that control room.
Yeah, maybe. No, I thought this was good because like we didn't get a lot of tech stuff in the
Yeah.
original, and now tech stuff like really hospitals rely on so much as we
Mhm.
see in the intro. Like even the X-ray is on an
Yes.
iPad, right?
Yep.
Like it's like all in their system.
Yeah.
It's not on like an actual machine that they put up the X-ray. Um, so getting this was fun. I also really liked when Elliot's in there talking to him, and he says,
Yeah.
she says, for an old lady, he says, "You're not old," And
Yeah.
she's like,
You're
"Oh,
a
thank
baddie.
you." So, oh
Yeah.
wait, no, that's not. It wasn't me.
Yeah. Yes. She gets called a baddie by and then a snack. JD gets called,
Yes.
or JD
Yeah.
calls her, I'm gonna go talk to my snack or whatever it was. But yeah, no, I thought it was a really funny. The Dungeon and Dragon things
Yeah,
come up later.
that's pretty funny because I think JD was the big Dungeons and Dragons player in the
Yes.
original run, like in their college and stuff. But
Yep.
this is where we're getting some of the influence of Donald Faison as a real person
Yeah.
and references to the podcast, because in the podcast I was just listening to an episode where he mentioned he played D&D growing up
Yes.
and he really loves Star Wars, and they mentioned how he sends Star Wars memes to Elliot last
Yep.
week, right? So we're getting a little bit of influence of Donald Faison as a person here.
Yes. No, I love it. I think Zach and them and even Sarah, like Sarah's very clumsy in real life. Like they said she's always like gotten broken wrists and fingers and everything whenever she
Oh,
shows
so
up
you're
on
saying she
set.
just tripped on
She
the
oh yeah.
wax? That was
Yeah.
that wasn't fake. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So yeah, the whole thing is they
We have a new
like
janitor.
yeah, they have a new janitor, and then because Elliot's like, when are you gonna like buy me my simulation lab, like kind of stuff that I need, and when are you gonna approve some of the expenditures I want to make? And JD's like, we're real tight on budget, and all of a sudden the new floor waxer guy comes by on his big like vehicle, and, and he's like,
It's
she's
got
like,
the heated seats I
yeah,
want.
she goes, "Are you kidding me?" And he goes, because he says he got heated seats on it. He goes, "Well, the emerald green model, it comes with standard heated seats." Like but she goes by and she slips on the floor just like Elliot normally would.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "JD, I blame you for that one." So it's
Yeah.
always JD picking on Elliot as we get throughout that. But that becomes
Before we move on from that real
yes,
quick, I just want to mention again, it just shows how long these characters have been together.
Mhm.
Because there is a bit here where he tunes out Dr. Tosh and does
Yes.
the Charlie Brown voices.
Yep.
And when Elliot walks over, he's still doing that, and she knows what he's doing. He says, "Stop Charlie Browning me."
Yes.
Right? Like, it just shows how long they've like she knows all of his tricks. It's
Right.
kind of like when they used to mention later
His
in the original run when he would have his that
his
look of the
daydreams.
fantasy. And we'd
Yeah.
sometimes see it from their point of view where he's just like,
Yeah.
and they even say some nonsensical thing like, "That's not what you're supposed to do," and they're
Yes.
like, "Oh, I don't know what that one was about,"
Yep.
right? But like, it was nice seeing that and getting that. She was married to him for years. Like, of
Right.
course, she knows his tricks.
Yep. It reminds me, I just watched the episode recently of the one because I was rewatching Scrubs before it too, and the one where Turk and JD are standing there, and Carla and Elliot are talking about something that they don't want the boys to know about. So they mention something about boobs or something like that, and then they start to daydream, both of
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
and then they start
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about what they really wanted to.
yeah.
So, but Jordan, that floor buffer thing, the vehicle actually comes back into play because Turk ends up teaching Amara how to drive using, or at least trying to start how to drive on that floor buffer that the janitor was using, and that was a really good moment. I think they do such a great job of bringing everything back full circle. Basically, Turk being like, all you got to do, and Deshauna is having the same conversation of like believing in what you know how to do, and that there's going to be things that kind of challenge you along the way, but we're here to kind of guide you through that, and it's exactly what Turk and JD will do, including Elliot too. Of like they are the teaching hospital, and they are much better coaches, I think, than Dr. Cox was always much more tough love in the original Scrubs. Kelso didn't care to teach, so you really did just have Cox. And then I always felt the surgical attendings and residents were always kind of rough with Turk and never really taught him a whole lot. But um, you do see a lot better, I think, just their leadership style and JD, Turk, and Elliot throughout this episode. Um, what else? What
Well,
happens?
we also had the crush with Asher has a crush on
Oh yes,
Amara,
Amara.
and
Yep.
Blake is helping him out with that.
Yeah.
And he has that nice line later where he's like, maybe I'll ask her out. And then later he's like, well, I heard Amara's kind of a shut-in weirdo anyway, so she doesn't have anybody to compare you to, so you have a shot.
Yes. Um, basically coaching him up. We also, Jordan, get conclusion with that patient and her,
Oh,
what we
yes.
assumed a love of her life. Jordan, it starts out really nice where they're talking, and then all of a sudden it takes a complete 180. They hate each other. Like they are he was there basically to see her die. I think he said he just wanted to see her one last time before she croaked. And I was like,
Yeah,
damn.
yeah.
Uh, but I think a parallel to maybe things aren't as bad for Elliot and JD. This is what Scrubs does so well. I think they present something that say it could be worse, or the fact that if life keeps going this way, and it shows Elliot like, and it kind of spooks Elliot because we get a really great scene again of JD and Elliot going into the bathroom, like they have in so many of Scrubs episodes of like it scares Elliot because Elliot doesn't just see the divorce from JD as a divorce from JD. She sees it as a point in her life where she becomes so isolated that she doesn't have anybody to care for her as she gets older.
And we kind of, we don't know what the situation with the kids right now, right? But
Right.
we kind of played on that last week when she was thinking, you know, Turk hadn't been a good friend recently for her since the
Yeah.
divorce, she had mentioned, right? So if she, let's say, I mean, this episode, Carla is talking about them not being able to spend time with them. They would have to find different couple friends. So if you take those two things together, that means, if JD and Elliot can't be civil, then that means potentially Turk and Carla are not hanging out with either of them.
Yes.
So you also have Turk that always picks JD. You have JD, divorced from her, having resentment towards her. So that literally leaves her like on an island with nobody except for her kids. But we don't know what kind of state the kids are in or if they would be there to take care of her. We don't know custody agreements. We don't know any of that kind of stuff. So we can't
Right.
even really say. But like, I think she's thinking more of like people of her age, because I know some people are like, well, what about their kids? But like I think she's talking about more of like people of her age, and like, they have that great exchange where she says, they are family. Like JD is her family, even though they are divorced. It's like, you know, he's been there. They've known each other for 20 years, 25 years that they've known each other and had some sort of relationship with each other, whether it's being best friends, whether it being a couple, that's always been there. And she was kind of worried that, you know, he wouldn't be there for her. And then on top of that, that's going to push Turk and Carla away, maybe, and it leaves
Yeah.
her isolated.
Yes, and this is an ongoing thing, and this was another relationship thing. If you're jumping into the show, you hadn't seen the original, or you're catching up on the original, a running theme throughout that original Scrubs was it was, whenever Turk and Elliot were kinda left alone early on in the season, they were like, "Why do we always rely on Carla and JD to kinda carry us?" Like, they wanted to be closer, and there's actually even an episode where Sarah gets pit or, Elliot gets pissed because she and Turk aren't close, and then she thought that they were friends, and she goes, "Turk, I thought we were friends. I want to be friends outside of JD and Carla," impacting that, and, like, there's really good moments between Turk and Elliot. I think that they both have a lot in common where they kind of geek out a little bit, and but also I think they both kind of get in these headspaces where they kind of need each other to kind of bounce off of, Turk and Elliot. So that was again, I'm glad they brought that back up, and then we'll get to the end scene, that I thought was brilliant and kind of wraps it all up. This whole thing that we're talking about. But Jordan, before that, we find out that Elliot was the one that was writing the bad reviews for JD, saying that he was a narcissist and didn't know how to run a hospital because she was pissed at that. And then JD's like, it never bothered me. And clearly it does. JD is bothered by everything anybody thinks of him. So I thought that was a really good touch.
It's always the obvious person there.
Yes. Yeah. And then to wrap up the episode, Jordan, unless you want to get anything else, um, we have them playing charades, and he goes, Fast and
Yeah.
Furious, how did you not get that? And he goes, why do you just do a mad face, like, and then fast pew pew? And so it was like, no. But they're like, we're gonna need more booze. And then they're like, oh, they fight like an old married couple. And you know what, Turk? I've had enough. Carla is
Yeah.
finds out that Turk has not been playing golf on Sunday, because JD is pissed at Turk. So he just rats out Turk, and Turk's like, dude, it reminds me of the old episode, like whenever you'd be like, dude, why did you sell me out? But whenever JD gets pissed at Turk, it's like his
Right.
natural reaction to just rat Turk
Yeah, you said
out.
your secret's safe with me earlier when it happens.
Yeah.
It did not last long.
Yes.
I really like this bit too, because then Carlos like, is that why you were ironing that cape? And Turk's like, it's a cloak. But what about the fantasy? We had the wrestling fantasy.
Oh, yes. I
twice in
totally
this,
bypassed that.
and the fantasies have been very high budget, and
Yes.
because we had also had the James Bond one last
The
week. We have this
IndyCar
one.
one, the racing car one, the pit
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. This
That
one
was
we
a
had
big one.
this one was mostly, I think, the only fantasies were these, right? The two wrestling ones. But
Yeah.
again, you're talking about like, that they have prosthetics on for their abs, and they're doing
Oh, it
the.
was wild seeing them get ready for this.
I loved her being like, how you always complained I never got on top.
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
jumped on him.
That was a good one. I forgot about that. Yeah, I completely bypassed the fantasies. I hope we get more of them. I do like them, but it does seem like they're going full budget on them. So I wonder if they're going to be far and few between. But
I don't know. It felt like the first episode had a bunch.
That's true.
They were maybe a little less big.
That's
But
true.
I
Yeah.
feel like they had a good chunk of them in the first one. I think this one was the one that had the least, and maybe because they
It's
went all
massive.
out on them.
Yeah. Dude, I saw the behind the scenes of them getting ready for this. It was crazy watching it. But yeah, no, this was cool. But at the end of the episode, Jordan, we got a very familiar Scrubs scene in the fact that Carla and Elliot drinking a beer on the couch, watching Turk and JD try to do this
Yeah.
charade. It just felt very Scrubs, and it was great to see because it showed, just like Scrubs did. I think they did this exact same thing when they were going through this kind of story arc earlier, whenever they broke up, JD and Elliot, of like, they're going to be fine. They can all be friends together, and it's okay to kind of put down that guard while you're
Mhm,
just hanging
mhm.
out with friends. But it did it was basically like, Elliot, it's gonna be okay. Like, you'll always be part of the friend group, which I thought was just beautifully done. But um, but so far, man, I know this show didn't get as high a rating on IMDb, but I do feel like it was still a really solid episode and felt still very similar to most Scrubs episodes.
Yeah, from what we know so far, right? We've seen 2 of the 4 Carla episodes that she's appearing,
Yeah.
and Perry is supposed to be in 2 more. So they've kind of spread them out a bit, right? We had the pilot that had both of them in it, but episode 2 didn't have Carla. This one did. I'm assuming next week doesn't. I kind of saw a preview of it where it seems like it may have been on the Jimmy Kimmel or it was
Yes.
on another one, but it was like them. I think it's called My Poker Party or Poker Night or
Yeah,
something.
because
So
Hooch shows up.
yeah, so I do think that like there was a bit where Turk says like Carla's out of town or going to be out of town. So I'm assuming we'll kind of skirt around her being in it here. 4 out of 9 is not bad
Right.
for Carla. I mean, she was not in season 9 at all, so I mean, that's anything's a plus to that. But
Right.
I'll say though, I said this maybe controversially that last time, episode 2 didn't have Carla or Perry in it, and I didn't really notice. Maybe that was because they both released the first day, and we got my fill in on the first one. But like, I feel like all the new characters, the new nurses,
I was gonna say
Sibby,
Nurse
the
Raymond and DeBow.
interns,
Yeah.
they've been carrying pretty well. Where I'm not like missing a beat here. We didn't even have Dr. Park in this one, and he was kind of the foil character for
Yeah.
JD. So I'm assuming he'll come back too, like next week, probably as being a because we do need some friction. This episode, Elliot was the friction with JD. We're gonna now that they've kind of resolved that. I'm assuming we'll get more of the Dr. Park stuff of him being a pain to JD.
Yeah. And I think Sibby at times will
Yeah,
step into that role of being just
I
an
liked her in
pain. The
the
yeah, when she goes, "JD,
ring as well.
here
Yeah.
to here." But yeah, no, I think Jordan, Nurse Raymond and Nurse DeBow, they feel like the Laverne of the new one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very much they're just sitting to judge, to
Yes.
judge everything that's going on and to provide commentary. Almost Jordan, it almost feels like they're part, like they're like with us. Like
Yeah, they're
it
almost like the
almost feels like
audience. Yeah.
they're the audience and like reacting in real time with what's happening. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that it'll be really cool, especially as this season wind down, because we've got confirmation that Neil Flynn's going to be in it as the janitor, and we also, or Glenn Matthews as was left. I wonder if that's still his name. I think that we'll get a nod to him not being named Glenn Matthews
Well,
in the
yeah, because
next,
we do
because he goes,
immediately
yeah,
in the
because the guy goes, "See
finale.
you later, Jonathan," or whatever, and
Yeah,
you're like, "Wait, what?"
yeah,
So
yeah. So he's not actually Glenn
no, he's
Matthews,
not
right?
Glenn
But
Matthews, but then
he's
Christian
Jan
Miller is coming
Etor,
back.
Dr. Jan
Yeah, Jan
Etor.
Etor. Yeah. But Jordan, Scrubs is known for its celebrity appearances. So I'm assuming we're gonna get some because how much Zach has directed and Donald has directed now, they know a lot of people. So I'm ready to see like random surprises
Well, we do
of
know for
characters.
sure Rachel Bilson
Yes.
is in
Yep.
this season. That's a pretty
Yes.
big get.
Oh, it's a huge get. I
Not as
love
huge as like Colin
no.
Farrell, but I mean
Yeah.
it's big.
Yeah. So Rachel Bilson, also married to Adam Brody, Rachel Bilson. So was she Gossip Girl, right? Was
OC.
that
She was
Gossip
in the
Girl?
OC,
OC, that's right.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yes. But I'm looking forward to this. I think it's gonna no Leighton Meester is Adam Brody's wife. Rachel
Yeah.
Bilson is Adam
Also
Brody's girlfriend. And
in the
in
OC. Yeah.
OC, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was like, man,
not
did
to
they really
confuse
get
that.
married?
No,
Yeah. No.
Leighton Meester. No, Leighton Meester is married. Rachel Bilson is what's her name? I can't even remember her name. Summer in the
Yeah.
OC. So I love the OC. But I'm excited, Jordan. They usually bring in, I would love like an appearance of like the ghost of Ben if Cox comes back at some point, like with Brendan
Mhm.
Fraser. I don't know if they can coordinate that, but that would be funny. But the fact that Hooch is in it so much, and the Todd is pretty much in every episode, he said. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see some of these characters kind of sprinkled in. But you're right,
And
Jordan.
Bill Lawrence just answered again. This is an answer he keeps saying, but if they get season 2, they're really trying to get Kelso in here.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Would you be
he is
okay, Jordan?
85, so I
I was
mean,
gonna say, would you be okay if they brought him back to die?
it depends on how they do it, I
Yeah,
guess. But I would
that
really
was a
love
big
for him to
concern
just
people
be
had.
like, I would love for him to just show up looking for the coffee bucks and it not being there or something. He
That would be good.
still needs his
That would be good.
muffins, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yes. Yeah. I was going down the list of like celebrities, Jordan. I forgot Dick Van Dyke was that nice doctor in that
He's still
first
alive. He's still
season.
kicking. Let's
Yeah,
get
I
him
was like,
back.
put him in. Yeah, put him in. So he'd be willing to put Harrison Ford in it. They know Bill now.
But no,
So
I'll be curious. Like there is the Bill Lawrence connections for a lot of stuff, right? Like
yeah,
um
Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox, who was in this show already. She could always come back. But I mean, we had the Nicole Sullivan, who was
Yeah,
the patient that died in season 5. She was Courtney Cox's therapist on Cougar Town too. Like he just
right.
moves all these people around into these shows, and we
Different
have,
universes. Yeah.
Michael J. Fox, of course, is in Shrinking now. I know Donald Faison said he really wants Harrison Ford. There is that Harrison Ford connection with Shrinking,
Yes.
so it is a
Yep.
possibility.
Yep. I know somebody said that Sudeikis was sniffing around with some of the characters in Bill Lawrence's universe too for Ted Lasso. So yeah, I'd be interested to see. Like,
That's
you
weird
know,
that he was sniffing it, but
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know why he
I'd
was
love to
smelling
get
it.
him
It's
in.
weird.
I'd love to get
Yeah.
him in too.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? Get Brett Goldstein to come to Scrubs. That'd be funny.
As
Um,
Roy, like he's on
yes.
rehab,
As
playing for
yeah,
playing
he's in the
for
US and he hurts
like San
himself.
Diego FC or something. Yeah,
Yes. And then we can talk about like international people coming over and freaking out about the healthcare, but have a good moment with Asher because he's British
yeah,
too.
they
Like
can
that'd be good.
bond. Yeah,
Right. So just some ideas, Bill. But Bill's been great on X, Jordan. I don't know if you've been following that. Bill Lawrence has been tweeting back and forth with
saw a
fans.
few.
So I've been
I saw a
watching the
few
show.
things.
So, but that's been a lot of fun. And he's very appreciative that people still find that same allure that Scrubs have. So any final thoughts, Jordan, before we head out?
No, I've just really enjoyed it so far. It it really is filled like I always want these long shows that have been on forever with tons of episodes as
Yeah.
like, so watching Scrubs, daily leading up to this was a nice comfort. That we don't get a lot of times with newer shows. Like I'm not sure if I can have like Ted Lasso be a comfort show because there's only 3 seasons so far and there's not a ton
Yeah.
of episodes. Right? Like with Scrubs or with Friends or with How I Met Your Mother, with all those shows, you can at least have some time before you see the same episodes over and over again because there's
That's
so
true.
many of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
and having Scrubs back and just knowing that like after season 8 ends, you can pop on this season and keep it going, and it doesn't have like a noticeable dip so far, is pretty big. This has probably been the best revival that's ever been there. I mean, like I liked the new Frasier more than most, but it definitely was lacking. It was definitely lacking the
Yeah.
original. Like you can't watch like 90s Frasier and then jump to the new Frasier and be like, this is the same. The way you can with this show. And like uh you don't get a lot of times where that happens
Yeah.
with revivals or reboots or continuations. So I'm very happy that this is back on, even though I'm a new fan, I would say. But like, I'm glad I can keep it going.
Yeah. And for those out there that haven't really been following Bill, I mean, Bill Lawrence and Donald and Zach and Sarah have said that they're willing to go as long as ABC is willing to have them. So it doesn't sound like they have plans to really just stop this dead at 3. Like they really do feel like they've got a game plan to keep going as long as ABC will have them. So I think as
My
long as they keep doing
question,
this, they will.
I guess, my question is this season's 9 because it's a mid-season replacement.
Yeah.
If it gets a renewal, do you think, Logan, it'll have like your standard 18 to 22 episodes like Abbott Elementary, or are they going to hold it as a mid-season replacement and it be 9 to 13 again for season 2? Because in my opinion, a lot of people I see online think that like 9 is what it's going to have going forward. I don't think so. This is
No, I don't
network
think so either.
TV. I think that
Yeah.
just like The Office had 6 episodes for its first season, this is a run
Yeah.
to see if it's worth keeping. And with the ratings so far, it is. So in my opinion, I wouldn't be shocked with like a 18 to 22 episode season next year.
Yeah, and ABC, just based off of my experience with ABC, has never really believed in allowing that to happen for big shows that it has. So Grey's Anatomy still runs to 24. I know
Exactly. And with these
Abbott.
ratings, like, would
Yep.
you want to cap yourself
Right.
at 9? I
Yep.
don't think so.
Right. And Shifting Gears still does 22 because Tim Allen refuses to go down from that. But no, I think this is bought into 18 to 20 at least. What did I say now? Did I say something bad?
You said Tim Allen refuses to go.
Well, you might, Jordan. I don't know. That might be up to Shifting Gears season 4 or whatever.
Yeah,
They're
that's
on.
a
It's a
well,
whole different
that show
channel.
name is also
He might be shifting gears. That's why he doesn't go down. So, oh man, some of the stuff we can come up with. But yeah, Jordan, I'm so glad that Scrubs is back. Um, Again, like you said, a comfort show you really want to be long. So I'm gonna stop talking all this stuff. The Todd will keep high fiving me for, but yeah, no, I'm really enjoying this. I can't wait to see some of our favorites return. I do hope that they get a season 2 because it does sound like they do want Kelso back. So that'll be cool. I think that would be awesome to be able to bring him back. But uh, I also did wonder too, Jordan, and I know the reason why he probably wasn't in it as much is because of Rooster. I do wonder if McGinley would be more willing to do a couple more episodes
I
but I
think
just
he
don't
said
know what role he would have. Like I
I
guess
think
he
he
could
said he
be.
would. So here's a few questions, right?
Yeah.
We don't fully know his role in Rooster enough to
Yeah.
know if if that gets renewed, if that
Right.
prevents him,
That comes out
or
tonight. So
oh, does it?
yes.
Or if he would step, like maybe he would choose
Yeah.
Scrubs over Rooster, right? Like we have no clue what that type of contract is,
Right.
but one that hinges on Rooster being a hit too.
Yeah.
Um,
Which it's gotten really good reviews so far.
yeah, there was a bad review I saw, but like that's yeah. So who knows how it
Yeah.
resonates with people? But two, where I was going with this is where was I going with this? So
We
if he,
more characters
uh,
coming in.
well, I guess my point was it hinges on Rooster getting renewed probably, but also here it was. I saw that this was filmed like in around October through December. They really rushed the filming of this to get it in, and it was around the holidays. So he may have just
Oh
I think
yeah.
he just got done Rooster, and he probably didn't want to spend too long of time away from his family. But also, and I say this as somebody that loves Perry Cox, I had to make sure I added his first name in there because last week I said I love Cox.
That's fitting for the end of this episode.
So, and I would love to see him in more episodes, but like after he's already stepped down as chief of medicine, where does he fit
Yeah.
into this show
Yeah.
other than being maybe the occasional place JD goes to ask for
Advice.
guidance?
Yeah.
So like
Could,
that's kind of what I don't know. Like he's not a Kelso type where he's going to be popping in with muffins every day.
yeah.
So like
Could you
I don't know.
could you like I in a hospital you could like do something on the lines of CEO him or where he's not where he's
You know
around.
more than I
Yeah,
have no
like
clue.
he could admin it where it'd be more of like he's back as JD's boss, like or as like JD's equivalent. Like CMO would be like similar on like CEO's the boss technically, but like he's not making decisions
I
over
could
the
see something like that where
yeah.
like they maybe bring, if he wants to come back, maybe he's bored at home and that's what Jordan is coming in to be like, hey, you got to get him out of my freaking
That's a
house
good
because he's
point.
annoying me.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe it's like, hey, you know what? I'm not good with the budget stuff and it's pulling me between Elliot and Turk. Like, can you focus on this while I teach the
Like a
students? Yeah,
CMO.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
that'd be
something
funny.
like that. It could
Yeah.
work like that, I guess.
Yes. Because then it'd be like a knockback to or a reference back to the resident.
Yes. Yeah,
So
and they share
chief
the same
resident.
office and it drives Perry nuts.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd
Like,
be great.
there's options.
Yeah. So, but you're right. Like I just again, Dr. Cox and Sibby would be such a cool because he is so not what Sibby believes in. So,
Yeah.
I thought that would be an interesting dynamic. But I think they'll bring him back in some capacity. Even like a private or he's a concierge doctor, something like that. So I don't know, but I do feel like they're going to have to work him back in somehow because otherwise, you're right. I don't see him Kelso muffing like being the muffin man. Like I just don't see that. So, all right, cool. Jordan, where can people find your stuff if they want to listen to your beautiful voice?
Yeah, for the next podcast your wife is going to listen to, if she is going to hear this.
Yeah.
Um, it, so Soups and Sabers, as we just did our coverage of Night of the Seven Kingdoms on both feeds here, this and that. I'm on that. We're going to be doing Daredevil Born Again season 2 coming up at the end of the month. So that's kind of the next big thing I have going on. Otherwise, I'm just kind of reliving the early thousands. My son was watching Shrek this morning, and I've been
Wow.
replaying Pokemon Fire Red. So just
Nice.
taking some time off of the constant podding for now, as we build up to Daredevil.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. Enjoy the time with the kiddo. I know you and I have been texting back and forth about all the wonderful shows and movies that he'll be introduced to
Mhm.
for the next couple of years or years to come. So that'll be fun for him. But yeah, you can follow us here, the Screen Society Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, throw some stars down for us so that people can find the show. I'm over on the Screen Society Podcast on social media. If you search that up, I'll drop the usernames down in the show notes because we have some funky usernames because of availability of them. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time where we'll be talking Scrubs once again. Season 1 of the ABC revival, episode 4.